Introduction. Social reforms and contemporary society. Historical social reforms have significantly shaped contemporary society by addressing issues of inequality, justice, and human rights. These reforms have led to lasting changes in social structures, legal systems, and cultural norms, influencing how societies function and how individuals experience their rights and freedoms. The abolition of slavery. Advancing human rights. The abolition of slavery in the 19th century was a landmark social reform with profound impacts on contemporary society. Movements and legal changes, such as the Emancipation Proclamation in the United States and the British Slavery Abolition Act, ended the institution of slavery and set the stage for subsequent human rights advancements. The legacy of these reforms continues to influence modern discussions on racial equality, social justice, and reparations. Women's suffrage. Expanding political participation. The women's suffrage movement, which gained momentum in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, was a critical social reform that expanded political participation and gender equality. Achievements such as the 19th Amendment in the U.S. and the Representation of the People Act in the U.K. granted women the right to vote and run for office. This reform has had a lasting impact on gender equality, influencing contemporary debates on women's rights, representation, and empowerment. Labor rights. Improving working conditions. The labor rights movement of the 19th and 20th centuries brought significant changes to working conditions, wages, and workers' rights. Reforms such as the establishment of labor unions, the introduction of minimum wage laws, and the enforcement of workplace safety standards have improved the quality of life for workers. These changes continue to shape contemporary labor laws and practices, impacting issues like workplace safety, fair wages, and employee rights. Civil rights movement. Challenging racial segregation. The civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s was a pivotal social reform that challenged racial segregation and discrimination. Landmark legislation such as the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 addressed systemic racism and promoted equal rights. The movement's influence is evident in ongoing efforts to address racial inequalities and promote social justice, reflecting its enduring impact on contemporary society. Education reform. Enhancing access and equity. Education reform movements have focused on improving access to quality education and addressing inequalities within the educational system. Reforms such as the establishment of public education systems, the introduction of compulsory education laws, and efforts to desegregate schools have enhanced educational opportunities for all students. These changes continue to influence contemporary debates on educational equity, access, and reform. Healthcare reform. Expanding access to services. Healthcare reform has been a significant area of social change, with efforts to expand access to medical services and improve public health. Reforms such as the establishment of universal healthcare systems, the introduction of public health initiatives, and the expansion of health insurance coverage have transformed healthcare delivery. These changes have had a lasting impact on public health, access to care, and the overall well-being of populations. Social welfare programs. Addressing poverty and inequality. Social welfare programs, including unemployment benefits, Social Security, and housing assistance, were developed to address poverty and economic inequality. These programs have provided a safety net for vulnerable populations and contributed to reducing poverty rates. The legacy of these reforms continues to influence contemporary social policies and debates on economic inequality and social support. Environmental reforms. Promoting sustainability. Environmental reforms have focused on addressing environmental degradation and promoting sustainability. Key reforms include regulations on pollution control, the establishment of protected areas, and initiatives to combat climate change. These changes have shaped contemporary environmental policies and practices, reflecting the ongoing importance of sustainability and environmental stewardship. Conclusion. The lasting impact of social reforms. Historical social reforms have had a profound and lasting impact on contemporary society by addressing key issues of equality, justice, and human rights. From the abolition of slavery to environmental reforms, these changes have shaped legal systems, cultural norms, and social structures. Understanding the impact of historical social reforms highlights their significance in shaping the values and practices of modern society.